Welcome to Summoner's Rift. "30 seconds until minions spawn." Minions have spawned. executed.
Hey guys, what is up, and I welcome each and every one of you to a new League of Legends video. It is that time once again to take a look at the best champions as of the current patch. There are definitely going to be some new faces throughout this list, with some familiar ones coming up as well, but there's going to be 3 new ADC champions that seem to be really taking the spotlight, and ones that I highly recommend you start watching out for. So if you guys end up enjoying this video and you want me to continue making these top lists for every patch, then let me know by hitting that like button. But as per usual, this video will be made in collaboration with ProGuides, a very familiar name by now. It's a website that tries to improve your overall gameplay knowledge and mechanics, and just overall tries to make you a better League of Legends player. I'll have a link to the website down below in the description where you can try it out completely for free. There is a free trial, so there's really nothing to lose, and I highly recommend checking it out. But without much further ado, let's get right into the best champions of the current patch. So speaking of the ADCs, let's start off with them first. So let's go all the way down into the bot lane, and first, let us talk about Tristana. Tristana is making her way back into the meta, and I feel like she's going to become more and more stronger as people begin to realize her true power. The reason she is quite good at the moment is because not only does she obviously have escapes, but she also scales really well, and she also fits the meta very well because currently ADCs abuse crits, right? Infinity Edge, usually going a double Zeal item like Static Shiv and Rapid Fire Cannon, maybe a Phantom Dancer. And Tristana, someone that has her own steroid, being her Q ability that gives her an insane amount of attack speed, especially later on to the game. The amount of times that she can crit is just so much higher than so many other champions that if you get to that point of the game, it's gonna be really hard to stop her because of also the range that she gets on her autos. But to make things even better, I mean, the current game is becoming more and more macro focused, getting towers, getting objectives, and Tristana is probably the best ADC when it comes to destroying towers, all thanks to her Q and E combination. All in all, Tristana is just definitely up and coming. She's, in my opinion, becoming quite OP, so if I were you, I would either pick her up and or begin to watch out for her. But let's very quickly take a look at the recommended build for this champion. So you can definitely either go Fervor of Battle or Warlords, but Warlords tends to be just a better because it does take a while to get lifesteal with the current popular ADC builds. Of course, getting Static Shiv, Rapid Fire Cannon, and Infinity Edge usually as your first 3 items, so Warlords helps with this quite a bit. The items by now should be somewhat self-explanatory. I mean, I already talked about it several times, and other than that, everything else should make obvious sense. But following Tristana, there's yet another ADC champion that I want to quickly talk about that's also becoming stronger and stronger, and definitely someone I'd watch out for, and that ADC is going to be none other than Corki. Now Corki is going to be a little bit of a special pick in a sense because even though he is obviously an ADC champion, he does do a lot of magic damage, and I do recommend playing him more in the mid lane than down in the bot lane. Now the reason I call him somewhat of a special pick is because even though he is still an ADC, you probably should be playing him in the mid lane, and you are going to be dealing mostly magic damage because of the rework his passive recently got. But the items that you get on him are still gonna be ADC-like, because you're still gonna be going things like Infinity Edge, Trinity Force, things like Rapid Fire Cannon and or Static Shiv. And the reason he's really good right now is because he just does so much mixed damage. Before, his passive gave him a 50-50 with physical and magical damage split, but now the fact that his passive essentially does almost full magic damage, if you still go for these standard ADC items like I just mentioned with Infinity Edge, Triforce, a Zeal item, you're not only doing a lot of magic damage with your auto attacks thanks to your passive and even your spells, but you're also doing a lot of auto attack damage just because of your items that you're getting. Essentially, it just became even more difficult to actually itemize against Corki properly, so you may want to watch out for him. On top of all of this, his laning phase is actually quite safe. He has fantastic roam potential with the package from mid lane, and there's just a whole lot of things he can do, and he's easily up and coming, so if I were you, I would definitely watch out for him. But here's a recommended build for Corki. Now you want to go actually Sorc Boots because you still want the magical penetration since most of your damage is going to be magical. Your runes, items, and even masteries are all going to be a pretty simple and standard typical ADC page. Now the final ADC I'll talk about in the honorable mentions section, so we'll have to wait till that. But for now, let's talk about another mid lane champion that is insanely strong at the very moment. And that champion is going to be none other than Malzahar. Malzahar at the moment apparently is probably the top mid laner in the game. I mean, he is insanely strong, he does a lot of damage, he has great wave pushing potential, his ultimate is probably one of the easiest and strongest ways to catch someone out of position. The damage ever since his ultimate got reworked, now that it does percent damage and actual base plus scaling damage, is insanely good as well. His Voidlings do quite a bit of damage, and I mean, Malzahar is just a good champion. He's very obnoxious to face, his passive is pretty annoying to deal with, he works well with a team, and I mean, he's just one of those champions. His weakest point is most likely going to be his early laning phase because he doesn't have a whole lot of options at that stage of the game, and if you all in him, he can't really do much about it. But if you let him scale, if you let him get his core items, his Deathfire, his Rylai's, and his Liandry's, I mean, it'll all just work so well together. You'll shred squishies, you'll shred tanks, it's hard to stop him, and just very obnoxious to face as well. So here's the recommended build, Deathfire being your keystone of choice for items, Morello's for the CDR, followed by Rylai's and Liandry's for that synergy with the E. But other than that, I mean, everything else should be somewhat self-explanatory. Oh, and I forgot to say, Malzahar is still one of the few champions that legitimately has a silence ability. Now let's move our way over to the jungle because there's some new champions and even some familiar champions that I want to quickly talk about. The first one is going to be somewhat of a new face, and that's going to be none other than Warwick. For so many of these patch videos I've been talking about Nunu, Ivern, Zac, and even though some of them are still going to be on this list, I wanted to bring in a new face. Now Warwick is a champion that I personally absolutely hate facing, and I feel like my win rate against Warwicks is pretty damn low. The reason for that is actually quite simple. I mean, the champion is just very hard to deal with. He has extremely good chase potential. He obviously knows where you are on the map if you are ever at half or less HP, which is also quite annoying because you have no idea where he'll come from. His ultimate is one of the best initiators, and at the end of the day, I honestly believe that his Q with how it can follow flashes, the amount of health he gets back, and his E ability with the damage reduction that it offers is quite damn OP. So if this guy ever does get an early lead, he will snowball to the point where not only is he going to be doing a lot of damage, he'll have a lot of lifesteal, and he will feel almost impossible to kill, unless maybe you have a Malzahar. So in my opinion, this is the champion that I almost always ban if I don't have to ban some other champion instead. Definitely something you want to watch out for. But regardless, here's my recommended build when playing Warwick. Now you can definitely go Courage of the Colossus as your keystone, but if you want to spice it up and make it more interesting, Fervor of Battle is really good because of the synergy with his ultimate. However, following that, your build path is going to be relatively tanky. You want to get an early Tiamat because it does help you with the jungle clear, especially when you do Raptors or the Krugs. You also want to level up your W first and get a few points into that because of the chase potential that it offers, and it's pretty damn OP. But following Warwick, we have yet another jungle champion to talk about, and is going to be Zac. Zac is still such a strong champion. I mean, he's just not getting the nerfs he needs. So, if that's going to continue, then he will continue to stay at the top of the jungle. And the reason for this, like I've HP, which is also quite annoying because you have no idea where he'll come from. His ultimate is one of the best initiators, and at the end of the day, I honestly believe that his Q with how it can follow flashes, the amount of health he gets back, and his another jungle initiation. Ganking power with her E ability, but now you can use this so much more frequently. Her W is now at the end of the day, even if you miss almost all of your pulls, if you just land that one money pull, maybe mid game or especially late game, that's probably going to be winning you the game. All it takes is one pull, and this guy can make it or break it. That's just how much of a toss-up he is, and in solo queue, that tends to work out quite well. He can catch people off because people in solo queue tend to be quite uncoordinated. You can roam very easy with this champion, especially if you get your mobility boots quite early, and he just has a lot of pressure, a lot of impact. He counters a lot of popular ADCs, like for instance Jhin, that I'll talk about very soon. And I mean, if you just want to have a support champion that actually has a true impact in the game rather than, you know, maybe someone like Jan or Soraka that kind of sits in the back, Blitzcrank is without question your go-to. So here's going to be the recommended build path for Blitzcrank. I feel like for the most part it is quite self-explanatory. Again, getting the early mobility boots helps you roam that much more, and the synergy with your W makes the gap close and the potential and the threat of her kit. And if God forbid you get the game to 40 plus minutes, there's a decent chance that Fiora can 1v1 almost any top laner in the entire game, with maybe the exception of Jax. Her scaling potential is just absurdly high, and I mean, even with a couple of nerfs, that's not going to be enough to stop Fiora. So if you ever want to play a champion that's not only fun, but does a lot of damage, can do a lot of things, and can hard carry games, and you're in the top lane, Fiora is definitely a good option. And here's the recommended build path. Further, of course, being your keystone of choice. For your items, you can go Ravenous Hydra or Titanic Hydra with a Black Cleaver. Death's Dance is great as well. Maybe going like a Guardian's Angel, Bloodthirster. All of those are fantastic items, and they all work exceptionally well on Fiora. Now, a couple of honorable mentions before I end off the video. First of which is going to be the third ADC that I wanted to talk about, and that's going to be Jhin. Now, Jhin is easily coming back into the meta, and I'm sure some of you already know this, some of you are quite aware, but Jhin is really strong, and he's easily
Red team's turret has been destroyed.